Welcome to literary and jury charge practice. Let's start out with this jury charge. Ready? Here we go. Members of the jury, the instructions I gave at the beginning of the trial and during the trial remain in effect. I now give you some additional instructions. You must, of course, continue to follow the instructions I gave you earlier as well as those I give you now. You must not single out some instructions and ignore others because all are important. The instructions I am about to give you now are in writing and will be available to you in the jury room. Again, all instructions, whenever given and whether in writing or not, must be followed. Do not allow sympathy or prejudice to influence you. The law demands of you a just verdict, unaffected by anything except the evidence, your common sense, and the law as I give it to you. I have mentioned the word evidence. Evidence includes the testimony of witnesses, documents, and other things received as exhibits, any facts that have been stipulated, that is, formally agreed to by the parties, and any facts that have been judicially noticed, that is, facts which I say you must accept as true. Certain things are not evidence. I will list those things for you. 1. Statements, arguments, questions, and comments by the lawyers trying this case are not evidence. 2. Exhibits that are identified by a party but not offered or received in evidence are not evidence. 3. Objections are not evidence. Lawyers have a right and sometimes an obligation to object when they believe something is improper. You should not be influenced by the objection. If I sustain an objection to a question or an exhibit, you must ignore the question or the exhibit and must not try to guess what the information might have been. 4. Testimony and exhibits that I strike from the record or tell you to disregard are not evidence and must not be considered. 5. Anything you see or hear about this case outside the courtroom is not evidence. Neither in these instructions nor in any ruling, action, or remark that I have made during the course of this trial have I intended to give any opinion or suggestion as to what your verdict should be. During this trial, I have occasionally asked questions of witnesses. Do not assume that because I asked questions, I hold any opinion on the matters to which my questions related. In deciding what the facts are, you may have to decide what testimony you believe and what testimony you do not believe. You may believe all of what a witness said, or only part of it, or none of it. In deciding what testimony to believe, consider the witness's intelligence, their opportunity to have seen or heard the things they testify about, their memories, any motives they may have for testifying a certain way, their manner while testifying, whether they said something different at an earlier time, the general reasonableness of their testimony, and the extent to which their testimony is consistent with other evidence that you believe. In deciding whether or not to believe a witness, keep in mind that people sometimes hear or see things differently and sometimes forget things. You need to consider, therefore, whether a contradiction is an innocent misrecollection or lapse of memory or an intentional falsehood, and that may depend on whether it has to do with an important fact or only a small detail. After making your own judgment, you will give the testimony of each witness such weight, if any, that you may think it deserves. In short, you may accept or reject the testimony of any witness in whole or in part. In addition, the weight of the evidence is not necessarily determined by the number of witnesses testifying to the existence or non-existence of any fact. You may find that the testimony of a small number of witnesses as to any fact is more credible than the testimony of a larger number of witnesses to the contrary. In these instructions, you are told that your verdict depends on whether you find certain facts have been proved. The burden of proving a fact is upon the party whose claim depends upon that fact. The party who has the burden of proving a fact must prove it by the greater weight of the evidence. To prove something by the greater weight of the evidence is to prove that it is more likely true than not true. It is determined by considering all of the evidence and deciding which evidence is more believable. If on any issue in the case the evidence is equally balanced, you cannot find that issue has been proved. The greater weight of the evidence is not necessarily determined by the greater number of witnesses or exhibits a party has presented. You may have heard of the term proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That is a stricter standard which applies in criminal cases. It does not apply in civil cases such as this. You should therefore put it out of your minds. You are to consider only the evidence in the case. However, you are not limited to the statements of the witnesses. In other words, you are not limited to what you see and hear as the witnesses testify. You may draw from the facts that you find have been proved such reasonable inferences as seem justified in light of your experience. Inferences are deductions or conclusions that reason and common sense lead you to draw from facts established by the evidence of the case. I am advised that reports about this trial are appearing in the newspapers, on television and radio, and on the internet. The person who wrote or is reporting the story may not have listened to all of the testimony as you have, may be getting information from people who you will not see, hear in court, under oath, and subject to cross-examination, may emphasize an unimportant point, or may simply be wrong. The case must be decided by you solely and exclusively on the evidence received here in court. The rules of evidence ordinarily do not permit witnesses to testify as to opinions or conclusions. An exception to this rule exists for expert witnesses. An expert witness is a person who by education and experience has become expert in some art, science, profession, or calling. Expert witnesses may state their opinions as to matters in which they profess to be expert and may also state their reasons for their opinions. You should consider each expert opinion received in evidence in this case and give it such weight as you think it deserves. If you should decide that the opinion of an expert witness is not based upon sufficient education and experience, or if you should conclude that the reasons given in support of the opinion are not sound, or if you feel that it is outweighed by other evidence, you may disregard the opinion entirely. You should consider and decide this case as a dispute between persons of equal standing in the community, of equal worth, and holding the same or similar situations in life. A corporation is entitled to the same fair trial as a private individual. All persons, including corporations and other organizations, stand equal before the law and are to be treated as equals. Right, we'll just take a little short break there and come back to this jury charge later. Next, let's try this land description. Ready? Here we go. The administrator is authorized and directed to convey by quitclaim deed and without consideration to the state of Illinois for wildlife conservation or recreational purposes all right, title, and interest of the United States in and to the following described lands, together with buildings and improvements thereon, located in Township 34 North, Range 9 east of the 3rd Principal Meridian, Will County, Illinois, containing approximately 2,400 acres, more or less. In Section 21, all of that property lying south of the Des Plaines River. In Section 20, all of that property lying south of the Des Plaines River, all of Section 28. In Section 29, all of that part lying south of the Des Plaines River, except a portion of the southwest corner known as the Hoagland Yacht Club, all of Section 22, south of the Des Plaines River, except the northwest corner known as the Hoagland Yacht Club, and all of Section 33, except a triangular piece out of the southeast corner, being a public entrance off U.S. Route 66 into Blodgett Road. That was some good number practice. We have south, lots of directions, northwest, something a little different. All right, now let's see what we have. Some literary material. This is called driving the Alaska Highway in its 75th anniversary year. Ready? Here we go. I am ready for grizzlies, glaciers, mountains, and saloons when I set out from Dawson Creek, British Columbia, milepost 0 on the famous Alaska Highway, also known as the Alcan, short for Alaska Canadian, but the view out my rental pickup truck reveals not a peak to be seen, only an endless quilt of alfalfa fields and potato farms, and the only wildlife are a couple of curious cows that watch me head north. I've come to Canada on a quest to drive the entire length of the Alcan from Dawson Creek all the way to Delta Junction, Alaska, historical milepost 1422, and the official end of the road. I've stocked my truck with bear spray, emergency rations, and a dog-eared copy of Robert Service's The Spell of the Yukon, but cruising down the smooth two-lane blacktop those first few flat hours, I can't help but wonder if I'm too late. In the 75 years since it was built, has the Alaska Highway gone from wild to mild? It's almost 300 miles before the landscape begins to pleasantly unravel. Just outside Fort Nelson, BC, the highway turns west toward the Rockies, and the fields surrendered to rolling lodgepole pine forests. Signs warn of moose. I stop for lunch at the Toad River Lodge, a combo RV park, Greyhound bus stop, gift shop, cafe, and campground. I can order almost any kind of burger: buffalo, salmon, turkey, bear paw. I go with a toad burger, which turns out to be a hot dog. Bear paw is a hefty BLT with mushrooms, mustard, and relish, and a side of poutine, the traditional Canadian dish of French fries covered with brown gravy and cheese curds. It's a warm and friendly stop, and the waitress says if I'm lucky I can get some photos of stone sheep further up the highway. The sheep are elusive, but the countryside is full-blown wilderness now, all snow-fluted peaks and glacial valleys creased with lakes. My stop for the night, the Northern Rockies Lodge, is a 4-story log resort on the shores of Muncho Lake. I sit out on my balcony for a long time, watching the sky fade and the moon rise. Hot water. The next morning, I'm excited to learn of recent grizzly activity at the Laird River Hot Springs Provincial Park. To get there, though, I have to hike almost a half mile alone through a mesquite swamp. With a towel in one hand and a can of bear spray in the other, I sing my way toward the sulfuric mist rising from the trees, hoping Sweet Caroline will prevent any surprise Bruin encounters. I haven't really earned this dip. I've driven only 30 minutes from the lodge, but that doesn't stop me from enjoying 2 blissful hours of soaking in the 126-degree water. Rare orchids and thick moss surround these stone-bottomed pools, creating a sort of tropical Shangri-La. It's buffalo, not bear, that marked my first wildlife encounter. Shortly before noon, a shaggy herd of wood bison stops traffic as the animals amble out of the forest and graze along the shoulder. My fellow roadies lean out of RVs and camper windows to shoot smartphone videos. Despite the twisting river valleys and crumpled mountain ranges, the highway is easy driving. I develop a deep appreciation for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, who in 1942, and with the help of local scouts, surveyed and built the road through swamps, over passes, and across permafrost in only 9 months at a cost of $138 million. The project's incredible speed was due almost entirely to a sense of urgency created by the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, which had prompted fears of an invasion of the Pacific Northwest. The last bit of gravel was paved in 1992. The long subarctic days pass slowly as I eat up the miles. At Watson Lake, just over the Yukon border, I wander in the signpost forest. This maze of 7,200 signs sprouted back in 1942 when a homesick GI posted the mileage to Danville, Illinois. Now it's full of homemade signs from every state in the U.S. and many foreign countries. My favorite is Jupiter Mile, 392,937,500. Okay, we will stop there for a moment. Jupiter. I'm assuming they're talking the planet, but I'm not sure here. 392,937,500 miles. All right, well, we will get back to this adventure. For now, let's try this. This is a proposed jury instruction. By the government. It's called the government's proposed jury instructions. Here we go. Ready? The first count of the indictment alleges from in or around January 2007 through in or around September 2007 in the District of New Hampshire and elsewhere, the defendants Daniel Riley, Jason Gerhardt, and Cyrano Gonzalez knowingly conspired and agreed with other individuals, both known and unknown to the grand jury, to prevent by force, intimidation, and threat employees of the United States Marshal Service who are officers of the United States in the discharge of their official duties, to wit, arresting Edward Brown and Elaine Brown. The indictment also alleges that the following 27 overt acts were committed in furtherance of the conspiracy. 1. On different occasions between in or around May 2007 and in or around September 2007, Riley, who is a resident of the Cohees, New York, temporarily resided in the Browns' home. 2. On different occasions between in or around May 2007 and in or around September 2007, Gerhardt, who is a resident of Brookhaven, New York, temporarily resided in the Browns' home. 3. On different occasions between in or around May 2007 and in or around September 2007, Gonzalez, who is a resident of Alice, Texas, temporarily resided in the Browns' home. 4. On different occasions between in or around May 2007 and in or around September 2007, Robert Wolf, who is a resident of Randolph, Vermont, temporarily resided at the Browns' property. 5. On different occasions between in or around May 2007 through in or around September 2007, Riley publicly declared his intention to forcibly resist any effort by the United States Marshal Service to arrest Edward Brown and Elaine Brown. 6. On different occasions between in or around May 2007 and in or around September 2007, Gerhardt publicly declared his intention to forcibly resist any effort by the United States Marshal's Service to arrest Edward Brown and Elaine Brown. 7. On different occasions between in or around May 2007 through in and around September 2007, Gonzalez publicly declared his intention to forcibly resist any effort by the United States Marshal Service to arrest Edward Brown and Elaine Brown. 8. On or about January 21, 2007, Gerhardt accepted delivery of a Bushmaster rifle from a firearms dealer in Alstead, New Hampshire. 9. On or about April 2, 2007, Gerhardt purchased an M44 rifle from a firearms dealer in Newport, New Hampshire. 10. On or about May 23, 2007, Riley purchased a high-powered Serbu 50 rifle from the firearms dealer in Newport, New Hampshire. 11. On or about May 23, 2007, Gonzalez purchased a high-powered Serbu 50 rifle from the firearms dealer in Newport, New Hampshire. 12. In or around June 7, Riley delivered a number of fire extinguishers to the Browns' home because Edward Brown said that he, Edward Brown, believed that federal law enforcement officers would set fire to the Browns' home. 13. In or around June 2007, Riley brought a shotgun into the Browns' home. 14. In or around June 2007, Riley installed motion detectors lights on the Browns' property. 15. In or around June 2007, Gerhardt attempted to cause firearms accessories be purchased from a firearms dealer in Maryland to be delivered to the Browns' home. 16. At a date uncertain, but between in or around May 2007 and in or around September 2007, Gonzalez and Gerhardt and another person posed for a photo with Edward Brown. The photo was posted to an account on a social networking internet site, myspace.com, that was registered to Gerhardt. The internet account was used to make statements in support of the Edward Brown and Elaine Brown In the photo, Gonzalez and Gerhard possess rifles. 17 on or about July 20, 2007, Gerhard purchased 2 Ruger rifles from the firearms dealer in Alstead, New Hampshire. 18 on or about July 25, 2007, Gerhard purchased a high-powered Serbu 50 rifle from the firearms dealer in Alstead, New Hampshire. 19 on or about July 31, 2007, Gerhard purchased another Ruger rifle from the firearms dealer in Alstead, New Hampshire. 20 between in or around January 2007 through in or around September 2007, Wolf purchased a 1992 Chevrolet Caprice, provided a 1992 Chevrolet Caprice to the Browns, which was used by other supporters of the Browns to run errands and gather supplies for the Browns. 21 on various dates between in or around January 2007 through in or around September 2007, Wolf conducted counter-surveillance of deputy U.S. Marshals. 22 on various dates between in or around January 2007 through in or around September 2007, Wolf provided armed security for the Browns. 23 in or about August and September 2007, Wolf made his residence available as a point of transshipment for supplies for delivery to the Browns. All right, we will stop there. That will conclude our literary and jury charge practice.